by getting the taxi to a nice restaurant and leaving my knighthood in the taxi.
You didn't? Well, what is a knighthood? What?
A knighthood is a medal.
Right, right.
Yeah, which you're told you can never wear, except on very, very special occasions. And I don't know what those occasions are. I think you have to wear black or white tie and tails. It should be one of those events.
You weren't tempted to work today for this?
No, I hang it on the Christmas tree each year. That's when it has its yearly outing.
When you first came here, did you wonder what the hell you'd done? There's a beautiful article by Ewan Ferguson in The Observer. Do you remember that? A couple of years ago. It's magic. And you said to him, when you began, you thought you were making the most expensive home movie in history.
Yes, and I've gone on saying that it's a home movie, because it is all made, you know, within Peter Jackson's backyard, virtually. His wife writes the script. His wife's best friend helps him with the script. He seems to know everybody by their first names. He turns up not sartorially dressed for the job at all, and he's everyone's mate. That's not what you think of as a big film director-producer type. He's not like that. He's your regular Kiwi. And I've noticed that now he has started referring to it as a home movie, and so my little, not dig, but compliment has been accepted, I think, in the spirit it was meant, because after all, home cooking is the best cooking you can get, and home movies maybe are as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, we'll just do one more.
Were you surprised by him at first?
Well, I met him before I took the job. He and Fran, his partner, came over to London and found me out in my house overlooking the Thames. And I immediately liked them. I don't know what job had been doing just before that, but it was probably in Hollywood or somewhere in the big film industry where people don't really behave like human beings. I've forgotten what it's like to, with mothers and fathers and sons and daughters and neighbours and friends. And the Jacksons haven't forgotten any of that. And so there were no surprises. That they seemed to be, in fact, they are, 4 years on, exactly the people I met the first time I met them. And that's a sign of someone's worth ethic, that they can be the same through all the difficulties that this film has inevitably had.
And also the triumphs. They haven't been affected by those either.
No, they haven't.
Yeah, which is
no, they genuinely haven't.
Yeah.
Peter has no wish to leave. Why would he see to and get over to...
Yes.
to California, and I'm with him.
Do you know, it's funny, it's part of the cultural cringe, it's part of living a long way from anywhere. When someone foreign who's important comes to New Zealand, we always want to know what they think of the place. Yeah. And they always dutifully say, oh, we really like it. You know, people, I swear to God, people get off the plane who've never been here before, and at the airport they're asked what they think of New Zealand. You know, but you, and so we're all used to people saying to us, oh, it's lovely, but you mean it, don't you?
Oh, yes, I'm dotty about it.
Dotty?
Yeah. Well, I love the open air, I love the countryside, I love mountains, and I love water. Well, then how could I not love New Zealand? As I've mentioned earlier, I like the attitude to social affairs that New Zealand has. And I met the Prime Minister very, very early on. I mean, my first week here, because I knew Tim Barnett, the Englishman who emigrated here and became an MP, a gay man like myself, and we worked together on gay rights in the UK. And he took me to meet the Prime Minister in her garage, actually, because it was a rainy day, and the garden party that they were having for the Labour caucus had to take place sort of indoors. So the first time I met Mrs. Clark was to see her slopping a double helping of tomato ketchup on her spare ribs. I'm a vegetarian, but she was talking a little bit about gay rights, because that's what I was interested in, and I noted that there were 6 or 7 openly gay MPs, as well as a transsexual MP, and thinking if only we were as up to date, the world would be a better place. And then she started, not having long been Prime Minister, I think, 4 years ago, she said, of course, the trouble with New Zealand was the race problem. And I said, it doesn't seem to me to be a racist country at all. She said, well, you haven't been here long enough to discover that. And I thought, what a bold thing for a Prime Minister to say to a total stranger who had already a very good impression of their country, but she wanted to tell them the truth about it. And that's good on her and good on New Zealand, and you compare with what other ex-colonies have done with their locals, not far away in Australia, and you really should be very, very proud of yourselves, I think.
you came here to make Lord of the Rings, and it's funny, when we've told people, because we've skited endlessly about the fact that we're coming down to interview you, and if you say it to an older person, they go, "Oh, Sir Ian, you know, the theatre Shakespeare. Just beautiful name, round the vowels and do all that stuff." If you say it to a young person, they go, "Gandalf."
Gandalf,
and,
yeah.
you know, so you have been reinvented. You are, for a whole generation, of you're Gandalf.
Well, and a little bit confusingly, perhaps, I'm also Magneto in X-Men 1 and 2.
Yes, that's right.
So I'd much rather be famous for the characters I play than famous as myself, you know. But unfortunately, Gandalf wasn't free to come along and talk to you this afternoon, so it has to be me instead. But people say, "Oh, but do you not mind being known as Gandalf?" Oh, no. I mean, what does one act for? One wants as many people as possible to come and see the work, and if they like the work, then I'm a very, very, very happy person. And if they then think of me as Gandalf, what higher compliment could they possibly pay me? And if I can then go on and play other parts, which I've been able to do, then, you know, I'm the happiest actor in the world, really.
What does one act for?
Well, I think these days, having acted for over 40 years now, it's habit, really. I wouldn't like to pretend it was anything more special than that, and a way of earning a very good living, as it's turned out. But when I began, there was no certainty of being famous or rich or celebrated. I just wanted to act because I wanted to act, and I think probably you would need a psychiatrist to unravel why I wanted to act, but it was something I discovered very early on as a kid in Bolton by this time, also in South Lancashire, that I was good at acting. And for a teenager to discover something that they're good at and that their peers as well as adults approve of, and the teachers at school as well, if they all think what you're doing is a good thing and you're good at it, well, then you're perhaps a little bit more balanced than otherwise you might be. I think perhaps that's what I wanted out of acting. I wanted to prove to people that I could do it.
You proved that early on, though, didn't you? So there was a point quite early on when you could have stopped proving that.
Well, it's taken me a long time to prove to anyone that I can act in front of a camera. Yes. So, no, there are challenges come along the whole time, you know? And I deliberately don't play the same part each time. I try and be pretty and not disguise myself necessarily, but root around inside myself to find different aspects. And you know, Magneto and Gandalf and Richard III, they're all very different sorts of people.
Can we talk about Richard III, which was such a brilliant film, and which you wrote the screenplay for?
Well,
and executive produced.
Big deal writing a screenplay for a Shakespeare play.
Well,
you know, I didn't write anything. I reorganized it.
You made it into cinema, didn't you? You took a play.
That was the idea.
Yes, yes.
And interesting to discover that the man who was writing before any of our modern notions of storytelling, like the proscenium arts theatre, for example, or television, or film, or radio, should, in Richard III, have written a play which, with very little tidging, very little reorganization, turns itself into a movie. Shakespeare never ceases to amaze me, and it's a cliche now, but academics have been saying it for a long time, that the scenes in Shakespeare follow on from each other like that. There's no time for get people off and bring other people on. It has to overlap in some way. No time to take scenery out and close the curtains and bring up and have a little rest. No, it's continuous. On. And what is that? You're describing a film. That's what happens in a film. The curtain doesn't come down in a film to change the scenery. It goes on. It's a cut. And Shakespeare invented the cut, as he invented so many other things. So it wasn't all that difficult to reorganize Richard III.
Everyone